pro-growth tax reform means that we will have lower rates, we will have a simpler tax code with fewer brackets, and we will have an IRS that exists only to serve the taxpayer.
Welcome back to The World Over Live. That was Speaker of the House Paul Ryan at a press conference earlier this week. Will Congress be able to pass a tax reform bill? Where does the repeal and replacement of Obamacare stand? And how about President Trump's proposed border wall? Where's that? To discuss it and much more, we're joined by a member of the House Financial Services Committee, Wisconsin Congressman Sean Duffy. Welcome back to the program.
Raymond, good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Congressman, let's start with these proposed tax reforms. A lowering of rates across the board for individuals. He's got 3 tiers. What will that mean?
35, 25, and 10. It's going to simplify the tax code. He's kickstarting the conversation right now about how do you actually grow the economy, which is leaving more money in people's pockets. They know how to better spend their money than the federal government. But this gets really complicated really quick because Democrats want to raise taxes, Republicans want to lower taxes. So to get bipartisanship on this is going to be tough. So we're using this process called budget reconciliation. Tax reform has to go first. You get $1 trillion of tax reform there. You go to tax reform, and you use that $1 trillion to lower the rates. Gets complicated, but we can actually do it if we get health care reform done.
Okay, part of this, at the heart really of this tax reform bill, is a 15% corporate tax rate, which is really low. Right now, we have the highest corporate tax rate in the nation, world. What can we expect? Do you think that'll get through? Is that acceptable?
Well, so this might be the starting bid, but we hear anywhere from 15 to 20%. And what you'll hear is Democrats say, "Oh no, tax breaks for the wealthy."
New York Times today: tax overhaul will aid wealthiest.
All we have to do, Raymond, is look around the world. Developing nations have lowered their taxes and kickstarted and grown their economy, and it helps the middle class. It helps poor people with more opportunity. If we do the same thing here, that's how you grow your middle class with more and better paying jobs. So again, this anemic growth of 1.5% to 2% over the 8 years of Obama, if we get that to 3%, man, we're putting people back to work with better jobs.
Do you think this will pass? I mean, the estimates is that this could explode the deficit by $7 trillion over 10 years. $7 trillion. There are some deficit hawks that get indigestion reading this plan. You're not concerned about that?
Listen, a $20 trillion debt concerns me. But if you look at the growth that comes from tax reform, which these numbers don't take into account, I don't think you actually see deficit growth. I think you see us able to grow tax revenue because of a growing economy, and we're actually able to start to pay down the debt from this new growth and new revenue.
And how do you address, though, the significant drop in revenue? I mean, you just think because of the economic activity that this will engender, that will make up the difference of revenue loss?
Listen, absolutely. And Raymond, what happens too, this is a problem that everyone agrees on. Powerful interests have come to Washington and they lobby and they carve out their profits, their revenue. And if you're not as powerful here in Washington, you're paying the full boat. If you simplify the tax code, you lower rates, but you take away those loopholes and deductions, the tax code is far fairer, so we know what everyone is paying, and it doesn't matter what kind of political influence you have in this town. It just means we're treating everybody under the same tax structure.
Yeah, everybody gets the same. Everybody's getting the same cut in the macro. Let's talk about Planned Parenthood funding for a second. I know the president signed an order that relaxed the Obama rule, where the states had to fund Planned Parenthood or suffer all sorts of ramifications. They now can opt out of that. But on a federal level, it's still in the budget, yes?
Well, what we're going to do is a 1 week extension probably tomorrow. And then there's a debate. I mean, Democrats in the Senate can hold us hostage because you need 60 votes over there because of their rules. There's only 52 Republicans. So they can say, hey, we're not going to support a wall. We're not going to support defunding Planned Parenthood. And if you put those things in, they're poison pills, and we're going to shut down the government. However, if we get health care reform done, we are taking away money from Planned Parenthood, which is a great advancement for the cause of life.
I want to move to this Obamacare repeal and replace. The president promised it. I know many of your colleagues ran on that, repealing and replacing, and
I did myself.
And you. Now, they've come up with an amendment to the GOP overhaul that went down in flames a few weeks ago. This amendment would allow...
Not be so harsh.
I know. Well, I'm just trying to describe it in a way that's colorful and dramatic that people at home will understand. It went down in flames. It was ugly. And the idea now is, here's an amendment. It allows states to opt out of certain mandates in Obamacare. You don't have to provide certain services. You can charge varying rates to people with pre-existing conditions. How is this a repeal and replace, Congressman Duffy?
We're rising from the ashes, Raymond. So
this is the Phoenix Obamacare repeal and replace. Is that what this is being labeled?
Listen, here's what we're doing. I mean, we're using, again, budget reconciliation. It's a 3-phase process, and it gets complicated. So you can say, well, you aren't repealing and replacing, Congressman. We're actually reforming the way healthcare works. Okay. We're empowering people to make decisions for the risks that they face in their life. We're empowering you, because you know what risks you and your family face. Bureaucrats in Washington, Raymond, don't know what's best for you or your family. And so that's at the heart of what we're doing with this reform. Instead of making it government-centric, we're making it individual and family-centric, and taking away the mandates that are forced upon people. We're saying, hey, listen, let's let the states make these decisions. What's right for those states? They know their people better. Let's allow them to make those choices themselves. And again, this is what we always believe, which is state-based decision-making.
Are you at all concerned that the president, in trying to negotiate away from a government shutdown, he said, okay, I don't need a down payment on my border wall, and I'll pay some of these Obamacare subsidies? Does that concern you? And is this the end of the border wall? He's saying he'll wait till September for it. Do you think he'll actually get it come September?
So I think with Democrats in the Senate, and the fact that this resist movement is so strong that you see rise up around the country, it's hard for Democrats to give Donald Trump any kind of a win. And this brings me to a different point. The senators have to get rid of the filibuster rules. We have to go with a simple majority in the Senate. You saw them blow up the filibuster rule for the Supreme Court. Democrats blew it up for the lower federal courts.
Right.
If Republicans don't do it now, Democrats will do this the next time they take control of the Senate. So let's get rid of these rules, and let's move an agenda forward that can secure a southern border, that can actually get health care reform done in a comprehensive fashion. It'll allow us to get tax reform done without these crazy rules that don't make any sense to anybody, including us in the House.
Yeah. I want to move on to something. This is President Trump talking about NAFTA. Now, he had originally planned to simply back out of NAFTA. And then he announced this week.
Well, I was going to terminate NAFTA as of 2 or 3 days from now. The president of Mexico, who I have a very, very good relationship, called me. And also the Prime Minister of Canada, who I have a very good relationship, and I like both of these gentlemen very much, they called me. And they said, rather than terminating NAFTA, could you please renegotiate? I will, and I think we'll be successful in the renegotiation, which frankly would be good because it would be simpler. But we have to make a deal that's fair for the United States.
What should the president insist on from this NAFTA pact?
Equity and fairness. Let me give you a quick example. In Wisconsin, dairy's big. We export a lot of ultra-filtered milk to Canada. Right. The Canadians used a little loophole in NAFTA, and they stopped taking American Wisconsin milk because they're subsidizing Canadian milk. Donald Trump tweeted out about this a couple days ago. He mentioned it in Wisconsin when he was there at Snap-on. We need to get tough on those who abuse us on trade deals. And Donald Trump is so popular right now with our farmers back in Wisconsin. He's now going to leverage the imports from Canada into Wisconsin that they use for wood, a 20% tariff. It's this kind of strong talk and strong behavior that actually catches the attention of the Mexicans and the Canadians to say, we're not going to be run over anymore. We're going to look out for our own people, our own interests, and make sure trade is fair for the American worker.
And it's smart politics for Donald Trump, and probably why his base has stuck by him in these polls where they were looking, I think, to see if there was erosion. He's got 96% support from the people who voted for him.
In Wisconsin, he's up 10 points right now from where he was a week before the election. He's doing very well.
That's amazing. Let's shift quickly to North Korea. They released a propaganda video this week. It showed a missile striking the Capitol, the White House. Now, whether they actually can accomplish that is a different matter, but they may have ballistics that could reach the United States. How concerned are you? What should we be doing? I know there was a big meeting with senators, a briefing at the White House this week.
So this is incredibly serious. So obviously North Korea has nuclear weapons. They have ballistic missiles. The question is, do they have intercontinental ballistic missiles that they could put that nuclear weapon on and reach the United States of America? Our past presidents, Republican and Democrat, have basically stepped away from North Korea. Donald Trump understands the threat and is engaging. And the key to this is China. And he's not letting China off the hook. He's displaying a show of force. And I think we have to push this. No one wants war, but we have to push this to a resolution, because if we don't, with a radical leader, we could have a nuke dropped in the United States of America. We can't tolerate that. And that's why this tough action and tough talk and getting China's buy-in is so important.
Before I let you go, the 100 days is upon us here of the Trump administration. Now, this is one of those kind of, not to steal a term, but this is one of those fake benchmarks that people in Washington like to talk about that, frankly, don't mean a lot to people at home. And frankly, I don't think it has much bearing. But the fact is, when you look back at this 100 days, if that's indeed a marker at all, you see a series of executive orders, many of the most important ones dealing with immigration, blocked by the courts. Virtually no major legislation moved through the House. Some people will say nothing happened in 100 days. What is your perspective from Capitol Hill, Congressman?
So I'm supportive of the executive orders implemented by the president. He's trying, he's working. Yes, he's being stopped by progressive liberal courts, but we're close to a deal on health care. If we get it done, on Friday or Saturday, we'll get in with that 100-day window. I think we're going to get it done. And if we get health care done, we're going to get taxes done. We're going to get infrastructure done. And so, yes, it's not the best results in the first 100 days, but if you look at the first 6 to 8 months of this presidency, you are going to see, I think, some very nice successes. And look what's happening. You're seeing economic growth. You're seeing reinvestment. You're seeing the stock market up. You're seeing optimism across our country flourishing because people know that they're not going to have the heavy boot of government on their neck. They have someone who understands business and is going to lift it off and let them expand and grow and focus on the business of their business instead of trying to navigate the rules of government.
Congressman Sean Duffy, always a pleasure. Thank you for coming. Before I go to a break, I have a very important message I had to deliver, and I didn't do this earlier on in headlines. A special thank you to my producer, my senior producer, Christopher Edwards, who has reached the 20-year mark with the network, with EWTN, and he's almost been working for me that long and with me. A special thanks to Christopher Edwards on his 20th anniversary. I hope we see a few others.